We'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trustee Hogan?
Here.
Trustee Park?
Here.
Trustee West?
Here.
Okay, all comments will be taken at the end of the meeting. If anyone has any questions or comments, raise your hand, come up to the podium, be recognized by the chairperson, state your name and record. Multiple speakers at the same time will not be allowed.
Thank you. 203-18 to accept the minutes from the July 10th regular meeting.
I'll move. Second.
Trustee Hogan?
Yes.
Trustee Park?
Yes.
Trustee West?
Yes. 204-18 to authorize the fiscal officer to pay all outstanding invoices incurred and approve all warrants issued.
I'll move. I'll second.
Trustee Hogan?
Yes.
Trustee Park?
Yes.
And Trustee West?
Yes. 205-18 to authorize the fiscal officer to make the following transfers as listed below.
I'll move. Second.
Trustee Hogan?
Yes.
Trustee Park?
Yes.
Trustee West?
Yes. Correspondence as listed below, copies are available upon request. Administration, anything to report?
I do. You got the email. Soon here, we will be getting some informational meeting on the water line for Route 5. They're still in negotiations with, to get the project done. And then we'll be, once the meetings start, they'll probably be going pretty rapidly, just so everybody's aware of that, in case anybody gets called. Ted, the only other thing that because I've been in and out, but a couple months back, we were gonna try to get a hold of Trish, to update the zoning map, but now that they've got things going on, but I think we'd like to meet with them and Pete, so we can all come up with a game plan whenever we wanna set that up.
I see this morning.
There's like 18 different parcels so far, and I'm sure there's probably more.
This morning's news had the chairman or whatever resigned or so, if I read them.
Of the planning commission?
Yeah.
Give a chance for you to think.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
They got more issues than we need. The only other thing I have is Chris and I went up and looked at the water situation that we've been having problems up on Northview. Told the guy that was doing the excavating work, well, we didn't tell him, we made suggestions on what he could do with the water, because Chris don't want all that water going into the catch basin area, because it's working. What he could do, I filled Pete in a little bit on there, so as soon as he calls, or if he calls one of you guys, just have him get a hold of Chris, knows what's going on. If he's on vacation, Chris, you'll fill Marcus in so he's aware. And I told Pete whenever he gets a call, just call me and I'll meet him up there so we can, that'll help some of the flooding going down Northview, because none of our catch basins are getting any of that storm water because it goes down the road.
Instead of the.
Now with him building his house right there, who knows where that water's gonna go now. Other than that, that's it. We already talked about the Lake Shore incident, so it should be up to par.
Okay, thank you. Did you meet with the county?
I met with, no, I didn't meet with the county, I met with Bob Rose and the engineer out of ODOT, Chris and I.
Okay.
Joe Carpenter, road superintendent for ODOT. And we're gonna go ahead and put in a new pipe. He didn't say when he was gonna do that, did he?
No, they were gonna run some hydrology and stuff, and then they were gonna get back with Joe.
They may increase it to a 24-inch pipe, which is okay for here, but it's not okay for Frankie down the street.
Thanks, Marcus.
Yeah. So,
Does that go right across the whole front of this, Frank?
yes.
Yeah.
When they do that, can they inspect some of these catch basins up?
this way.
we can have.
The one next to me is, it
Well,
needs fixed.
here's the thing, that water keeps backing up and it's not draining, I mean, so, once they get this main pipe done here, then I would imagine we can add to that.
I'd say probably better not get the water on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had.
We've done work
out
on
in
a
line
couple
out here,
hours,
so
yeah.
it's been like 2 years.
that's all I have for that.
Right. Here, fire department, Chief Lewis.
I have numerous items on the agenda, I'd like to address a couple. One would be, imaging camera, I was at the conference last weekend or 2 weekends ago, and I won a thermal imaging camera valued at $800 that I'm turning over and donating to, the township. That's number one. Number two is the workers' comp grant. The electronic fund transfer has been arrived, so it's in our account. So we're gonna accept the grant now, for your workers' compensation, the amount of $47,932.21. $35,949.16 is what the BWC has given us, and our share will be $11,983.06. 3 or 4 months ago, I discussed about maybe taking an advance on this from the general fund, so I probably were requesting $11,983.06 from advance from the general fund to be paid back within a year to the general fund.
And that, Dennis, is to acquire what?
That'll be, it is a new patient cot, an ambulance cot or patient cot. This cot will lift 700 or 850 pounds by a push of a button. It will lift all electronic. The guys don't have to lift anymore. When you take it to the ambulance, you press another button, hooks come out, grab it, it lifts all the legs and pulls the cot into the ambulance. So yes, I'm putting a car in an ambulance. That's how I look at it. Very expensive, but one back injury in workers' comp average is $50,000. So this is to prevent any back injuries or help prevent any injuries to our firefighters, which is loss of time, that's just that cost. They don't incorporate this lost time.
Right, or the
and-
reserve amount of money that gets added on to our.
And then fill. You know, I have to fill for this gentleman when he's gone, which is time and a half. So I think this will be a great $11,983 investment by the fire department, to get this, new ambulance cot that we're looking at. Once it's installed, we will definitely bring it to both meetings, a morning meeting and a night meeting, to demonstrate and show the, taxpayers, what we achieved, or what, the cot will look like and how it will function. Go ahead, sir.
Another question for you, Dennis. That's only one cot, we have 2 ambulances?
That's correct. I have $4,000 left. I did not put it in that ambulance. The reason is that ambulance will be 8 years old, and within 2 years, we're probably gonna replace that ambulance. So when I replace that ambulance, this $47,000 will be an additional cost. I will have it installed when we purchase the ambulance. So instead of our ambulance being $110,000 to $120,000, we're probably gonna have to spend $160,000 in 2 years on an ambulance. So I will go a couple years with only one of those cots at this time.
So the cot that was in the ambulance that was damaged in the accident, that one has been.
Condemned.
Okay, so you're gonna have to still buy a cot for that ambulance?
No, when I replace the cot from the front ambulance, that cot will go to the back ambulance.
Gotcha.
So there'll be no additional cost for replacement. And right now, Portland had a spare, cot, and they're letting us borrow it right now. So both ambulances are up and functioning as of right now. It's been repaired. So they let us borrow a cot. When I get this one installed, I'll put our cot back in the other ambulance and then give Portland back. I know I got 3 cots I'm dealing with right now. I call them patient stretchers. That's on cots. The fair report was submitted, pretty busy fair for us. We ran 25 emergencies out of the fairgrounds, and for the week, we ran 46. That is, in 1 week, we ran 50% of our call volume for the month usually. We usually average right around 100 calls, but in 1 week, we ran 46 calls, 25 being to the fair. So the reports there, you can see we did 6 ambulance standbys, and we did 147 inspections at the fairground, and we also did the fireworks standby. All that money has been submitted to the fiscal office. The only other thing I have is for the public is the drowning that happened on 7/15. To correct or not to discredit any of the civilians that did form a chain and do the rescue, but this is what happened on Sunday, July 15, 2018. We were dispatched to a possible drowning. When 3 paramedics arrived on the scene, there was one gentleman that was trying to make the rescue on shore, choking, gasping for air, nemesis. Our first paramedic went to him and started to do treatment. We thought that was the drowning victim. When the captain or when the OIC got on the scene, there's a lot of commotion out in the lake. They're yelling for somebody to come out there. So he sent a paramedic in a life vest out there. What happened is that person that was making the rescue was drowning himself, let the victim he was rescuing go, and he sunk back down to the water. What happened is my paramedic swam out, got to him, and they said he's right here. The civilian said he's right here, right here. My paramedic took off his life vest, dove. On the 3rd time he dove under the water, he caught his hand, he brought him back up and handed him to a civilian and said, do not let him go. And he went back, put his vest back in, and swam him back to shore. So, the chain, everything, they did do a great job, but that is the report that my guys did. So probably at the next trustees meeting or the following, I'm gonna recommend a company citation for a attempted rescue. Yes, it wasn't favorable, and we feel bad about that, but, it was an outstanding effort by a young paramedic to dive in and get the body out, recover the body. And that will conclude my report, sir.
Okay, thank you, Dennis.
I already know that.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I'm already aware.
Thank you.
I already have the right amount that we're supposed to be paying.
Okay,
No.
so it is in the,
It's-
this amount that's called.
It doesn't exceed that.
Okay.
We're still covered.
Okay, good. Thank you, Dennis. 206-18 to approve an expenditure not to exceed $2,500 to 3C Custom LLC for ambulance repairs to be paid from the fire fund.
I'll move.
Second.
Trustee Hogan?
Yes.
Trustee Park?
Yes.
Trustee Webb?
Yes. 207-18 to accept the resignation in good standing of Eric Swanson effective August 1st, 2018.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Trustee Hogan?
Yes.
Trustee Park?
Yes.
Trustee Webb?
Yes. 2018 to accept the donation of a Revell Fire Pro thermal imaging camera from Chief Lewis valued at $800.
I'll move.
Second.
Trustee Hogan?
Yes.
Trustee Park?
Yes.
Trustee Webb?
Yes. 209-18 to accept the Bureau of Workers' Compensation grant in the amount of $47,932.21, with $35,949.16 coming from BWC and $11,983.06 as the local match.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Trustee Hogan?
Yes.
Trustee Park?
Yes.
Trustee Webb?
Yes. 210-18 to approve an expenditure of $1,270 to Pro Air Midwest for NFPA compliance service agreement to be paid from the fire fund.
I'll move.
Second.
Trustee Hogan?
Yes.
Trustee Park?
Yes.
Trustee Webb?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Police Department, Chief Hovis.
Just what's on the agenda.
211-18 to hire Nathan L. White as a FTO police officer at a rate of $8.30 per hour immediately upon passage of physical, drug screen, and psychological testing.
So moved.
Second?
Trustee Hogan?
Yes.
Trustee Park?
Yes.
Trustee Webb?
Yes. Road Department, Superintendent Park.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have, just a couple of announcements. The PDR is done on Catwater Sump. We're gonna do some extensive patching on there with cold mix, and then we're gonna probably seal chip that sometime in the near future to complete that project for the year. There was, some issues with our Caterpillar. I'm gonna have to, have Cat come out and take a look at it. Not exactly sure what's going on with it, but it's been pretty much maintenance free for us for a lot of years, but it's time to give it a little TLC, and, that's all I really have.
Okay, thank you. Planning Director, Zoning Inspector, and Code Enforcement Officer, Mr. Pizzuto.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, that's a lot of titles. I've given each of you a copy of the zoning permits that have been issued under my tenure as of date. Not familiar with your format here, but we'll get in caucus?
No, we're at actual open meeting now.
Okay. The follow-up on 4669 Warren Reedville, I'm meeting with the property owners this evening to discuss what they can and cannot do with the property, to make sure they're in compliance and no further trailers are planted. 3209 Joe's Clag, I had Fire Chief Lewis do an inspection on the property. We didn't believe anyone lived there at the time. I did post the house and spoken with the owner who is living there. She's making steps to improve it, to become compliant with the resolutions. I'll do bi-weekly inspections to make sure that she makes progress. A previous complaint that we received regarding running a commercial business on a residential property on Howland Wilson. Again, hand-delivered a letter to the property owner. They have become compliant so far. We'll do further inspections as time goes by. That's all I have, thank you.
Okay, thanks for your report. Zoning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals. At this time, the only thing that's scheduled is next quarterly meeting is scheduled for October. Okay, resolution number 212-18, which is not listed on the agenda, was added this morning. It is to approve the attached resolution number 212-18, resolution number 1, per ORC 505.87. Motion?
I'll move. I'll second.
Trustee Hogan?
Yes.
Trustee Park?
Yes.
Trustee Webb?
Yes. Park and Recreation Board. Nothing to report at this time. I know that they did hold their monthly meeting last week. There was not enough in attendance to make it official, so there was just conversation about what needs to happen over the next month or two.
Mrs. Lewis got a hold of me and asked if they could have a movie night over in the park. And she wanted to know what the park hours was, and I thought, that if they're gonna have a movie, that has to be dark anyway. I don't know what the hours, what we said.
I always thought it was dusk.
That's what I thought. So if they wanna have a movie, it's up to us to say, okay?
I don't know if we have to do that by resolution to allow that. Who sets that?
I think the park.
state
Under the rules, I believe,
Of our park board?
of our park, yeah.
Is there anything that would be, because people would have to come through to our park, through the parking lot of.
We could open the upper one, I mean, that's ours, the other gate, but I mean,
It's open 24 hours a day, even to get back to the boat launch, so I don't see a
I
problem.
suppose if there was a special thing like that,
Would we have to
it's just
contact
gonna be
the
law
board to let them know that
enforcement.
we're coming in?
It probably wouldn't hurt.
Probably let them know, at least a letter, telling them, like I just said, fireworks is different, we used to have fireworks that would let off over
Right.
there, people used to go there and start.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
True.
So,
okay.
I mean,
Yeah, certainly pass that on to the park board. something that they could, maybe recommend. Okay, asked to be placed on the agenda, Mr. Carlson, if you would come forward, please.
Paul Carlson, Lakeshore Drive. I have two issues. Ted, can you briefly tell us what the last motion was that was passed, 2021P, what that pertains to?
What that is, and of course, there is, for the purpose of the zoning inspector, there's a motion to do an abatement, remove garbage and so forth. It's at 2369 Bianca Lane. The house is in foreclosure. Mr. Pizzulo is working with the bank that has the lien or mortgage on it, and we're trying to get this resolved so that the problems are taken care of.
Thank you.
It's the first resolution in the series of 3 resolutions to get an abatement done.
Yeah,
It's the first
it's
step.
the first step of that process.
Thank you. The primary thing I want to talk about this morning is the relationship between the proposed road levy, council of governments, et cetera. At the last meeting, Mr. Schrodak raised several issues regarding council of governments and issues related to the levy. My first question is that, Ted, you're active, obviously,
Yes.
in the council, and over the past couple of meetings, you've referenced several things. Your position with the council government, are you appointed by the board of trustees, or are you a volunteer
Well,
to that organization?
It's handled much like the Board of Health. The chairman of the township trustees takes a position to represent the trustees in that process. Being the chairman this year, it's my responsibility, if we decided to join that council of governments, to represent Bazetta Township.
Okay.
And at that point, because the council was really new, they needed a board of directors, officers and so forth. I put my name in the hat to become a board member, to be more involved with that than just attending quarterly meetings.
So it's essentially a volunteer position,
Right,
not voted upon by the other members of the board. So the council of government now has taken the position that the commissioners should impose a 0.5% sales tax.
We're asking for that, yes.
You're asking for that now. Is that the position of the board of trustees of Bazetta Township? Are you voting or in favor of imposing the tax and not allowing the folks to vote?
Myself or the
No,
board trustees?
I'm talking to Paul and to.
Well, this hasn't even come about yet, though.
Yeah.
It has to be passed through the commissioner, right? Before-
Right now, the council of governments has not attended a meeting of the board of commissioners to ask them to do that.
But the council of governments, at their own meeting,
Right.
has proposed that this happen. My question is, does this vote, this position represent the board of trustees, or does it just represent Ted?
Well, actually, Ted is the spokesperson for the trustees on it, so to answer your question, yes.
So, Paul, you and Frank both are in favor of imposing a tax rather than asking the people to vote on it.
Is that the way it's drawn up?
Right now, that's what the council of governments is considering. At this time, it's not been a plan to put in effect.
It's in the paper that that's the council's position.
It is, yeah, it is the
So
position.
that is this board's position also, that the people not be permitted to vote.
For this particular project, yes.
All right.
Now, if I can enlighten you on why that position is being taken. The purpose of imposing that sales tax does a couple of things. It takes some of the burden off of the property owners of Trumbull County. About 50% of what would be raised through that sales tax comes from people who do not live in Trumbull County. The second reason why we're doing this is it's strictly for an infrastructure project. In other words, there'd be a certain amount of money coming back to every member of the COG. Right now, there's 24 communities that are members of the COG. And there's a very specific formula based on population and so forth, on how much of that money that would be raised through that sales tax that would actually come back to that community. So, in order for us to get that kind of money, we have to impose either a property tax, or we have to agree to maybe the sales tax. The initial proposal is to ask the county commissioners to impose it for a 2-year period only, and for the very specific reasons and purposes as we presented to them. Actually, we haven't presented to them per se. We presented it to the Chamber of Commerce, who are endorsing it. The building trades, they're endorsing it. We presented it a week or so ago to the Tribune staff, Renee Fox, Brenda, the editor, and Ted Snyder. We were in about a 2-hour meeting with them. Dr. McCullough and myself, representing the COG, was able to present and answer any and all questions they had. Right now, the primary or main function of the COG is for the communities to share expenses, create maybe a healthcare situation where we could all, through the masses, if there's 24 communities with 500 employees, we may get a better insurance rate than one community with 35. So those are the primary issues that we're looking at right now. What we're hoping to do is grow this into something where we need to fund it somehow to do a big project.
And I appreciate the information. That's essentially what you told Mr. Schrodak, at the last meeting. What the overview is, what the role of the COG might be. But also, in that conversation, you indicated that the monies raised would be short of the $2.9 million that you need to refurbish the roads here in the township.
Yes.
You mentioned that it would be 2.6. Now, is it not correct that the monies that you would receive, assuming the imposition of the tax, they could then, as they have been in the past, be used to leverage local matches against greater funds from the state, the Fed, or wherever they would come from. So, in essence, what we're saying here is that the $600,000 that would be raised, projected $600,000 from the imposition of the tax, assuming a 20% local match, that could be parlayed into some $3 million. Best case scenario, assuming a 20% local match.
The 20% local match. How do I want to say this? I don't believe we're going to get $600,000. The total pie.
Hypothetically,
Okay,
I understand.
Yeah. So if we were to say that we're going to take that $600,000 as a 20%, that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get awarded contracts.
I'm saying best case scenario.
Yeah.
All right. But it could be leveraged.
It could be
to
leveraged.
greater funds.
Yes.
Which, coupled with the passage of the 3 mil levy, again, hypothetically,
these roads would be pristine at that point. Yes.
you could project upwards of $4 to $5 million, well in excess of what you need.
Well, what's happening there is the worst case scenario, if we were to get the levy and did chip and seal on 4 different roads to reduce the
The
cost.
bigger roads, Don Wilson, High, Durst Flag, Cleary, Jacoby, Cadwallader, Song.
That number brought it down to about 2.9.
2.9. That changed.
If we did it the way it should be done, with peeling it off and putting the blacktop on.
And with the big roads added into it, it was 3.7.
So, hypothetically, again, best case scenario,
Today's month.
you're still well in excess of the 3.9, assuming a 20% local match. Now, that's best case.
passage of the three, everything, the imposition.
Right.
The commissioners go along with that, and the money's come in, 5, 6, whatever. Now, the problem with that, well, let's look at the worst case scenario. The commissioners say, we're not going to oppose it.
Correct.
You get nothing. The 3 mil fails.
We're right where we are.
Yeah.
Right where we are
We got nothing.
today.
Yeah, we got nothing.
Okay, so, my point is, at this point, we don't know what we're going to receive. All right, so really, the 3 mils is just throwing a dart against the board.
Oh, no, I had trouble.
No,
Okay.
No, I
Okay.
understand.
All right, I got you. I understand what you're saying.
You did your homework, I understand that. But in terms of what we're gonna get, you're just throwing a dart against the
The
board.
COG is a new process, and the purpose of that was to, you know, generate some extra ideas and help bring the community together for what, according to the paper, everybody wants.
Well,
You know, regional
initially,
stations.
it was for
But
sharing.
if they raise $600,000 in their organization, the COG, what's to say that Bazetta Township even gets a project out of that? What happens if the COG decides that road in Mahoney County is even worse?
The way it's set up.
It's Trumbull County.
Yeah,
It's already been set up how much money Bazetta's gonna get.
If we-
Indicated that at the last meeting.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
I apologize.
Here's my final point, and, you know, and I don't mean to be critical, but I think this board and prior boards have been very poor stewards as it comes to the maintenance of the roads.
Absolutely.
There has not been much done, gentlemen, in the last 8 or 10 years. But, best case scenario, if you receive money greater than what you need during the time that the levy passes, hypothetically, would you consider reducing the levy and the burden on the property owner at that time?
Well, the levy that's gonna be on the ballot in November is for 5 years.
Yes.
In order for us to be overfunded, I would have to say that at the end of the 5th year, we would have to say that we're good, we're happy, we're not gonna even put it back on the ballot. That, again, trying to project what's gonna happen 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years from now. One of the big concerns was that the road department has never been properly funded. To be able to do what's happening to the conditions of the roads that we have that are the township responsibility. There has to be some kind of a plan put in place. The COG, right now, that's the one that you're throwing the dart to see if it sticks on the wall. I think what we need to do as a committee, as a township, as residents, we really need to get behind supporting this 3 mil levy and say we have to do what we need to do to get this monkey off our back and make the residents appreciate what they have, because right now, if you were to look at your taxes, if you're paying $4,000 a year in property taxes, about $100 a year goes towards roads.
I just paid my taxes.
About $100 goes to roads. So,
I'll throw salt down the rest of the winter.
And that's
Thank
why.
you.
Throw it on my lawn.
Thank you.
And that's why we're in the shape that we're in. A lot of people have this misconception that they pay $4,000 a year in property taxes, that we get all $4,000. We don't.
Understood.
20%.
Understood. My point is, if at some term, or at the end of the 5-year levy, assuming it passes, will this board or future boards consider reducing or eliminating if there is not a bid?
Well, I said you can't do anything until the 5 years are up anyway.
Well, you can't do anything.
Right, but even once it's in place, you can't change it while it's in effect. You have to consider it 5 years
Right.
out.
I think the big confusion here, it would have been nice if, no disrespect to the COG, but they shouldn't have brought any of that out until it got passed, because it's conflicting to the residents on how much money we're getting. We need to focus on the 3 mil, past that, because let's say the COG does nothing, that 3 mil, Chris, over a 5-year period, you're gonna be able to get quite a bit done just off that.
Correct, yeah, that'll give us,
Now,
that'll put us
the
about
fog,
200,
that comes
2
in
million.
for the 2 years as a bump.
Yeah, I
So you're-
could, Paul, put it very well. 3 mills, people understand.
Yeah.
Yay or nay. Throw the cotton on top of that,
Yeah,
the water's
it's
getting
confusing
muddy,
deal.
and you don't know what's coming and what's going. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate your comments.
Sure.
Okay, is there, I'm gonna open it up now to public comment. Is there anyone that would like to address the board?
Stanley Schroeder, Lake Shore Drive. I have a question, please. In January of this year, you put out a thing to give all the wages of all non-bargain for employees. Okay? There's nothing about the bargain for employees. What is the reasoning behind that?
They're under contract.
Yeah, but they're still paid a wage, so why wasn't that published?
It's defined in their contract, and that contract is public record.
Okay, but you published the non-bargain
That's right.
for, but you did not, or what their job classifications are, or
It's
whatever.
online.
There's a quick answer for this. The answer is that we're required,
Right.
we're required to pass that resolution at the first meeting, the reorganizational meeting every year, saying what we are paying our non-union employees.
Yes.
That's why it's only the non-union employees, because the union ones are covered by contract. So we pass that resolution every year, because we are legally required to pass that resolution every year.
Because they're all at-will employees.
Right.
Yeah,
And it has to be approved yearly.
Yeah, it has to be approved, their wages have to be approved every single year, so we have to do that resolution in first meeting.
So
every year.
wage-wise, for the union employees, how do we find out what the union employees are making, or what their job classifications are?
You can request a copy of the contract, or you can go on CERB website,
Mhm.
and every contract is published on the CERB website, SERB.
Yes, sir.
State employees, what is it?
State employment
Relations
Relations
board.
Board, yeah.
CERB.
It's CERB.ohio.
It's still on the,
File.
Well, you have,
State employees.
you have a copy here, so I can just come and
You can
breeze
just
in
do it as a
and
public request copy.
get it
Of all,
printed out.
of all three
Yeah,
of them.
but at 10 cents a page, and it's, most of the
And then
contracts
there's
are over
the-
100 pages.
Yeah, there's the-
Don't mention, hey, 10 cents a page, doesn't matter, as long as we get the information.
Yeah, I mean, but it's free if you just go on, make a Google search, CERB, and go on your.
Yeah, but like, his particular contract is under, Teamsters.
It's all on there.
You just go under Bazetta Township, under the menu.
Police,
and
fire,
All
roads are all
all
on
three
there.
contracts are there, all you do is
Along-
click on it,
and
and it'll come up.
Along with everybody else in the state.
It tells you what we're paying.
What classification.
Paying for, what your classification,
If
so
you
I
wanna
don't know
compare-
what, like, his classification, what is his classification?
It's all there.
So it is listed as he's listed
It'll
as
list it by
superintendent
classification.
and assistant superintendent.
Sure, yeah,
whoever.
and if you wanna know how we compare with other communities,
Yeah.
you can click on Champion, they're there.
Yeah.
Click on, Holland, they're there. All that information is public, and it doesn't cost you a dime.
Oh, you need the money.
Come on downstairs, I'll make you copies for 10 cents, all you want.
Yeah, okay. One other question, I see where you fixed, Westlake. Was it your group that put the blacktop?
No, that was Hutton's,
Okay.
Rick Hutton.
Because about 30 feet down from where they put that, there's a couple potholes, all they had shoveled.
Yeah, no, I didn't ask him to fix any potholes, just the stuff that we can't do.
You know, because what's happening is the road's actually from, and it's not meant to be disrespectful or anything.
Oh, it's in terrible
But
shape.
from lack of, shall we say it, if nothing else, pouring some tar or whatever, you put down some of these cracks. They're just getting
The
bigger.
base
and bigger
is
and
beat
bigger.
up because of the sewer. That's what happened, the
It's
sewer
yeah.
installation beat the crap out of the roads, and that's the same that I have on Williams and Morrow. That is true.
The road went in after the sewer.
yeah, but.
I understand that, but the base was already beat to heck by the
You
time they
approved the
put
road.
No,
No, he didn't, that was paid for by
The
you
county.
guys.
The county paid.
Big
No,
difference.
the sanitary paid for it,
Yes,
but you
yes.
guys in essence paid for it, so
Yes.
I don't have an inspector on a
Yeah.
road like that.
Yeah, you're right, sorry.
Yeah, it made a big difference. The last two jobs, even on Morrow and, Williams.
Yeah, Williams, Morrow, they're all
They run us
just
off.
like that, Northview Drive, anything that we've had sewer on, that's why
Did
we
they
don't
not?
allow open cuts anymore either. Or, if you bore under the road, it's free. Every open cut, because you never fix those cuts. Every open cut, you get this, or this. So boring is free, we don't even charge you to bore. If you wanna bore 100 lines under the road, it's free.
Interesting.
That's the changes we've made as our knowledge has increased with these improvements that's happening in our township.
But the roads are your responsibility then?
The road is my responsibility
Okay, so
until they
then-
tear it up with
so
a bunch of
then-
sand. And then they have to fix it.
Yeah, maintenance on the road, because I
Maintenance
guess
on the road is
where I'm
ours.
heading with this is, you wanna put this 3 mil levy on, and from some of the persons that I've been talking to, want to know, you know, what's going on with this, and how are you going to do this with the minimal staff that you have? You don't have enough staff to go out there and do
Well,
roads.
I'll tell you
If
this,
you're the road
the
department.
west side has had more new pavement than this side has in the last 10 years. That whole side has been pretty much paved in the last 10
Your
years.
staff doesn't do that though.
My
No.
staff has enough problems to do.
You don't have enough staff.
Wait a second, Mr. Schroeder, when a paving project comes up like that, it's subcontracted out. We don't have any,
But even
Goes out to
repairs,
depending on the severity of the repair.
it's contracted out too, right?
There's had a PDR, which is a partial depth repair.
Correct.
That was subcontracted out on a paving project for Cadwallader Swamp. We don't have the equipment nor the
Yeah,
manpower to
that's
do
what I'm
that.
trying to figure out.
And none of the communities do, that's why it's all
And nor can we do it for that cheap too, you know, I mean, it's, them guys run that thing all summer long, they're highly efficient at it.
And another thing, we take care of, what, 2 cemeteries now?
Correct.
That's a lot of maintenance in the cemetery.
Oh, around 6,000 heads.
And you also cut grass on the roads,
Yes.
right? Do you know how many miles of grass you actually cut?
20-some mile road, but I haven't gone out and like said
Yeah,
I don't have
just out
a
of
clock to
curiosity.
mark off everybody's frontage.
Because to support this 3 mil, you know, these questions are going to pop up.
Sure.
And, you know, you're asking for a lot, 3 mils is a lot of money, and everybody bases on $100,000. Where are you gonna find $100,000?
Some of our roads, Stanley, is just about dirt. There's one down here, it's out of
Wilshire Drive.
It's almost dirt.
Fallon Drive in Denver Creek.
It's a shame, it's a damn shame.
Well, they did, what is it, Perkins Jones Road, that's a
Not ours.
washboard.
Not ours.
Who did that one?
That's Trumbull County.
Yeah, well, thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for your comments.
Okay, if I may.
Sure.
Going back to Mr. Carlson's comment about the cog, when you were asking to clarify this, the board here has elected Ted to belong to the cog. What that cog does not affect our decision to clarify your question. Do we support what they're doing? That has nothing to do with us. We elected him as chairperson to pertain to the cog, to create their board. It's a totally different board altogether. I hope that kind of clarifies.
I believe you're responding to my question, Paul, as to whether or not you and Mr. Clark favored imposing the tax. And the COG does, as Ted said, and my question was, does Ted's vote reflect your opinion?
Yeah, no, because that's their own board.
So
He's just the spokesman.
you are not in favor of imposing the tax, rather than letting the public vote?
Correct.
Well, it can be taken to.
It could be actually taken both ways. I mean, I'll be honest with you, and I mentioned this to Ted a year ago, even before this COG started, I wish they would just pass, Trumbull County would put on a 1% sales tax, and the 1% sales tax go back to the sales tax that's collected in your entity, and then we wouldn't need this 3 mil road levy or any other levies as far as that goes.
Somewhat of a horse of a different color.
Correct.
Okay? back to today's point, though, I'm just, my question is, does Ted reflect the feelings of the three in his votes on COG, or is he representing only Ted as a volunteer person with COG?
Correct. I would say that probably answers the question. I mean, he's the chairperson of Bazetta Township, and we support him to go be the spokesperson for Bazetta Township there. What that COG comes up with, we just get information back.
Does Ted reflect your opinion?
No.
Right?
Not really, because, like I said before, the tax hasn't passed. It takes Trumbull County Commissioners to pass it. It's not gonna go to the public, the way I understand it.
It could.
It could, yes.
I think,
It could.
I think what we're seeing right now is, if you look at the state sales tax and all the different counties that collect the state sales tax, right now, 66 out of the 88 counties collect more tax than we do. There's only 16 of us that are below the 7. The highest one is Cuyahoga County, and they're at over 8. Most of them are in that 7.25 and 7.5. We're at 6.75. So why should we sit back at 6.75 and let people come into our community without paying for our services, our safety services, our road improvements, and we're asking to go to 7.25, which there are 52 communities that are at least that. So are we any different than anybody else in the state of Ohio? 20% of us are below 7.
You know, I guess it just represents a public sector mentality versus a private sector mentality. COG was brought about to share.
Exactly.
And you've been around for about 4 months or 6 months, and all of a sudden now, let's tax, you know? And I guess I'd like to see a restructuring of expenditures rather than saying, boy, if Cuyahoga moves to 10%, we ought to jump to 8.5. You know, the logic escapes me on that, except it's in the public sector cocoon where all we need to do is tax.
Well,
and I'm not objecting to the road levy, don't get me wrong. But I am objecting to another bureaucracy that's being formed in COG to share, and within a few months, we say, let's raise the taxes. And I think you're making a mistake.
We may, I mean, but it's not, it's a recommendation only from the COG with a plan that was presented that has to go to the next step, which is to the county commissioners. Members of the COG cannot impose anything.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, all we can do is make recommendations or suggestions or ask for. That's where we're at right now. We're asking for the commissioners to at least look at the plan that's in place, look at the benefits of it, and make a decision. I don't think they're gonna do it. We've got one commissioner that's running for re-election. That would probably be suicide for him to impose a tax as opposed to putting it on the ballot. I don't think the commissioners are going to be in favor of it. I think from where I'm sitting right now on the COG, we're seeing that probably will not be imposed by that board. They may consider putting it as a referendum on the ballot and let the people decide. It's anybody's guess at this point. It won't go on, it won't go on the ballot, yeah. And again, some of the reasons why this is coming about or happening, 2 things are about to happen. Federal government, there's a proposal in federal government right now that if you do any kind of road work, right now, if you apply for a federal grant, 80% of the government pays on a 20% match. If what goes into play, which is in Congress right now, we pay 80%, they pay 20%. So, bang. How do we get that money? We're not going to recover that 60%. The second thing is, if you're willing to continue to pay the same taxes on your gasoline as you did when you owned that automobile in 1972 that got 8 miles to a gallon, maybe we would consider not taxing, but right now, fuel efficiencies are over 25 miles per gallon. People are buying electric cars. The money that's coming in from the gasoline tax has been so flat, and it's even dipping, that there's no, I mean, how can you maintain a budget, well, similar to a household budget, over the last 10 years, and expect to have services exceed what they have in the past, quality improve, but do it for less? And I know that's a hard thing to swallow, but there's nobody in these departments that is willing to take a 15 or 20 or 30% pay reduction to be able to be competitive or be able to provide services at the cost that everybody's accustomed to. There's a lot of factors in this whole process.
And I would agree with you, there are a lot of factors, and at your disposal, you have all of the statistics, which I do not, so it's very difficult to respond, okay? And I don't mean to be difficult.
No, I understand,
But-
but I appreciate your questioning and concerns. I mean, this open dialogue is what we need as a community, and I'm glad you're bringing it forward.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do, I appreciate it.
You just gotta get more than 3 people.
I'm hoping about 300 watch the camera.
None of them will come, and they're afraid of these people, so.
We're not afraid of you guys. I
Yeah,
mean,
you don't bite.
We want you people.
We don't bite.
Show up. We want people to be here so we can have a discussion. Is there anyone else that would like to make a public comment? Okay, 213-18 to adjourn the meeting at 9:51.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Trustee Hoag?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Webb?
Yes. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
I don't know if it was last week or this week, is one of the things that I forwarded, that state rainy day fund has just gone up again.
Yeah, I read that in that legislative alert.
Yeah,